Jason La Canfora is with CBS Sports. He talked today about Baker Mayfield and why he will bounce back. He says Freddie Kitchens is gone and a tremendous talent remains around this quarterback. I believe Coach Kevin Stefanski will keep things simple, emphasize a quick passing game, get Baker Mayfield back to getting it out fast and utilizing a lot of heavy and jumbo personnel to try to smash the opposition. Simplicity and structure are then in order for this offense to rule the day, especially in a truncated season. Stefanski will be back, and we'll get them back on track. La Canfora was not a big booster of what the Browns have been doing the last 2 years, so this is somewhat comforting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can see what a lot of other people can see right now. And of course, they have to go out and prove it. But at least you've got a coaching staff and a front office now that are on the same page. They're speaking the same language. And even when we talk to some of the coaches, the assistants on Kevin Stefanski's staff, they're on the same page. I mean, how many times over the last couple of years, you would talk to Todd Monken and the message was different than what you would hear from Freddie Kitchens, or you would talk to Todd Haley and that was different from Hugh Jackson. And you could just tell that there was a disconnect. There was something very wrong. Well, that's not happening this year. You've got a lot of people that are all working together towards the same goal and a lot of really cool players. They've added some really interesting personalities to this football team. And I think the vibe and the chemistry in general is just so much better than it's been.
Jason La Canfora of CBS Sports had more to say today. He's talked about Odell Beckham and the fact that he thinks he will bounce back. He's too young and driven to let an injury-marred 2019 become the norm. With so much going on in Cleveland's offense and emphasis on the run game, Beckham's value will be maximizing the opportunity. With Mayfield straightened out and Stefanski scheming it up, I see a lot of TDs in Beckham's future and some serious scheming. I see some serious yardage also being put up with yards after the catch. I think this is interesting that last year, all of the national guys, they were caught up in the hype of the Browns. Now, as the offseason settled in, they came back with it, and then now they're starting to come back behind the Browns. It's almost like they overrated him last year, now they're making up for it this year. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I think people are very, very cautiously optimistic from a national standpoint. Now, mostly everyone that I talk to nationally believes that Baker Mayfield is going to bounce back in a big way. I think everyone can see that he will function so much better in a play-action scheme. And all you have to do is look at some of the other quarterbacks that have been in this system. The Jimmy Garoppolos, the Brian Hoyers, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, the list goes on and on. Players get into this system and they end up putting up big numbers and they fare well. So I think most people expect that to happen. But by the same token, I think people are kind of holding back a little bit before they put the Browns into the Super Bowl like they did last year.
All right, so you talk about the scheme, but how much do you credit Stefanski with and how much do you give it to Gary Kubiak? Or don't we know till it happens?
Well, I don't think it really matters, whose name you put on it right now, as long as you can run it and you can call it. I mean, Gary Kubiak is going to run it in Minnesota. Kyle Shanahan will be running it out in San Francisco. And Kevin Stefanski will be running it in Cleveland, and others will be running it elsewhere. So I don't really think it matters quite exactly who is the guy, with the name over the door. It's just getting it called and schemed up the way they do it. And these guys, with the wide zone scheme, with the play action, with the two tight ends, the short passing game, it works. And I keep wondering when our defense is going to figure it out and catch up to it so that you don't have these huge numbers being put up week after week. But so far, it seems like there's plenty more where that came from.
The way you talk about it with on paper, basically, but the double running backs plus a couple of tight ends and the wide receivers. You got. I just picture these defensive coordinators in the hotel room the night before the game trying to say, all right, who do we stop here? If we stop this guy, they're going to come back this way. It's finally giving the opposition something to worry about that we haven't seen here in Cleveland football in a long time. You might have had it with Johnny Manziel trying to figure out what to do with him and Baker by himself, but it looks a little different now.
Right, and the good thing about this scheme is that on almost any given play, you can run out of it or you can pass out of it. So there's just a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of confusion on the part of the defense about what you're actually going to do. And there are some very versatile players in this scheme that can help pull that off, including like a Kareem Hunt. If you have Kareem Hunt on the field, you're never sure if they're going to pass it or they're going to run it. He'll help pull off the ruse. So there's so many things that you can do out of it. And I think that Baker Mayfield he's got a high enough football acumen to pull that all off. And so do a lot of other guys on this offense.
216